Hey guys, it's Barrett from SinCast. I just wanted to let you know that my audio is a little bit different this week due to unforeseen circumstances. But the episode is just as hilarious as normal, and we're going on with our regularly scheduled program. So enjoy the show.
Doesn't he have that nasty song about fucking? That's what BTS should do.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello, that's me.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hi!
Yeah! Barrett's into it. Barrett knows what I'm talking about. Today, we're going to be back to the old school here. We got our usual format and everything. I guess what we would call our usual format. I don't think it's officially our usual format, but it is something we do a lot.
We're usually unusual.
Yes. So we've had, we did 2 months of brackets, maybe a little bit longer. It lasted from the before times to the now times. And so you guys surely have to be pissed off about something.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Lord Jesus! Lord Jesus!
I am maybe only the millionth person to point this out, but I sure am tired of every single commercial being in these uncertain times or in these times of uncertainty. Please buy Pepsi.
Right.
Or make sure Preparation H is behind you or whatever. like everyone is trying. I might need a commercial or two like that from maybe a handful of brands, but not every brand. I don't need Peter Pan peanut butter knows your family is struggling right now.
Yeah.
That's why we are still making peanut butter. Like,
you have to kind of realize what your product is, right? You know, you can't just go in and assume that you're doing anything for COVID whatsoever.
It's almost like clickbait, right? It's shameless glomming on to an issue. Then they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on commercials, these big companies. Like, they're spending money to market off of this. It's kind of gross if you think about it for too long, honestly.
It's not only gross, it's annoying because you're watching Big Brother, The Challenge, fucking like Top Chef, and then and you're in a good mood, you're relaxed, you're enjoying it, and then all of a sudden it's like Bubble Yum saying like, we wrap our things individually and deliver it contactless so that you don't get AIDS.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't need I don't need all that. I don't need the Dr. Pepper sweet guy to come out and be like, we don't like COVID.
It's just really, really kind of skeezy and frustrating. And I'd rather watch those Sarah McLachlan 2.5 minute commercials.
If they converge those two, like in these times, these dogs really need homes.
I mean, like McDonald's separating their two arches metaphorically to be the distance between us during these. Like, such a dick, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. I mean, and those ads. Those ads could easily just be the same fucking ads they had before all this, and they get the same thing accomplished. I mean, does the average consumer go, weird that they played the same old ad? They're not even acknowledging COVID in their ad. It's weird.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just don't think the average American is that smart.
And they all have the same like soft piano music in the background, like
sad stock music is going through the roof right now.
Oh yeah.
Jason Segel's character from Forgetting Sarah Marshall would be making a killing.
Mm-hmm. Oh
It's
yeah.
all ominous tones.
Yeah, no surprise. My rant is COVID related as well. I live in this sort of new neighborhood, and like behind me there are some people who have moved in the last year or so, and I don't know them, I don't talk to them or anything like that. But you realize pretty quickly that not everybody's taking this seriously. And like, so last week, people directly behind me had a big party. They had like at least 7 or 8 people on their balcony, no masks, nothing, with a party going on. Like we weren't in the middle of all this right now. They've had at least a couple others since then that maybe not as large, but you still hear them outside wooing and screaming and all sorts of stuff. Party's bad enough, the noise and all the bullshit that entails, but like to do it during COVID, it's like, what is going on here? You guys are really in that doesn't matter, it's not going to get me camp, aren't you? You're really in that camp at this point, and you're probably looking at people by sight and saying they don't have it, so therefore it's cool that they come over and touch all of my things in my house and drink from my glasses and all sorts of other stuff that's going on.
Jesus.
And it wasn't just them. This whole row of houses have similarly aged people. And it seems like there's some new, like you hear cackling somewhere, and you go and look over and there's like a party on the balcony somewhere at another house. And you're just like, I mean, is this house going to be death row in like 3 months? Is there's going to be some people that I don't see anymore? Am I going to see some weird shit going in and out of that house where people are like crying and depressed all the time? I mean, I understand the sort of the need to get out there and you know, be with your friends again and everything, but not in this age. I just don't get it. I don't get how you can risk it just because you're going, when you say you don't believe it, you're going by some thin factors that you're just completely ignoring the other stuff.
Yeah.
To make your party happen. Where you're like, well, look, it's there's nothing going on in this state. Look, there's nothing going on in this state because of a lot of things that we were doing to prevent it in the first place. Yeah. And for you to go out and do your party now doesn't help that at all.
No, and I just went out this morning for groceries. Still a harrowing experience. But I noticed 3 businesses while I was out that were open today that have been closed for the last 6 weeks: a car wash, a Subway sandwich shop, and a Great Clips. And I was like, man, I'm not going to any of those places. Like, why is your car being washed? Why is that? Who's thinking along those lines? Who's like, God damn, my car's dirty. I better go maybe catch a virus and clean that shit. I don't want to lose reputation points.
Yeah.
Dirty ass car.
Yeah. My Subaru is my status symbol.
Oh my God. I mean,
I drive a Dodge Stratus.
Yeah.
Part of this is that we have a governor who's decided to take a pretty soft stance on, and even suggested some businesses start opening, this month. And it looks like several are. And they won't be getting my money for a while.
Yeah.
It's the selfish thing of, I'm going to live my life. You can't let this affect how you live your life. You should, even if there's something out there, it's invisible, and, you got to keep LIVIN, right? And what's weird is that I almost understand that sentiment, is that you do have to live your life, right? You do have to continue existing, doing your part and everything. But the selfish matter of that is you're you're delaying this. You're putting this out there for people who may not be as healthy as you. And the more that we do this ahead of time, the longer it's going to last in the long run. And people can't see past their own nose on their face. And this whole, well, I gotta go live my life is selfish on so many levels because you're screwing it up for everybody else that's trying to do right like us.
Like, there's going to be people who, I'm going to go live my life, and they never come down with it, and they definitely caught it and gave it to other people. But they'll be at the end saying, see, I never got it. Because they're asymptomatic assholes.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing that's scary about this virus is that, you know, there's times where people have it and don't know they have it and never know that they have it, and they can still spread it. It's just like the regular flu. I hate, you know, like actually comparing it to the regular flu because it's always being compared to it in some way to make things look better than they are every time. But the way that I'm saying it is that there are people who don't really get affected by the common flu that much that go around spreading it. And that's the reason why we have vaccines, so that people can not do that and everything. And so, yeah, I there's part of me, I think if I were back in my like 18 to 22-year-old mode, there would have been a past me who would have come out and just yelled at those people and just said, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" And over time, I've just gotten to the point of like nothing matters anymore. So like it's just, you know,
and nothing else matters.
Yeah, and so like, you know, and I don't even bother anymore. It's like, if you guys are going to want to have a party and possibly spread COVID amongst yourselves, you just go ahead and do that.
Hey, I've got a rant about Instant Pots.
Okay. It's what it's the rant we didn't know we needed.
Yes.
This may end up being the most controversial rant that we have of all three of us.
I agree.
Look, fuck the Instant Pot. I know there's a lot of people that love them some Instant Pots. It slices, it dices, it batters, it bakes, and everything. It's supposed to do everything. I swear to God, this thing is supposed to like suck your dick for you, and then do while, I don't know, sticking a finger up your ass.
I've seen the commercial.
You've seen the commercial. No, seriously, the commercial itself, with in all seriousness, it basically says, here's what you do. You chop up some stuff, and then voila, tacos. That's it. That's the only thing you need to do. I fucking swear to God. It's the commercial. She does pet like baby goat yoga while the thing is Instapotting, and then the next frame you see, she's eating a goddamn taco. And I'm like, no, it does not do that, man. It does stuff. It cooks rice. It does some sautéing. Not very good. It does some stewing. It does some pressure cooking. I've got one. I've tried to use it. It's very confusing, but because it's got a bunch of like esoteric greens and browns and blues and red buttons and stuff like that. But I started to get a handle on it, kind of. I suck at it, but still, it doesn't make tacos. It doesn't make pizzas. It doesn't make like everything. And the commercials make it sound like it makes everything. You watch Home Shopping, and I watch Home Shopping because my wife watches Home Shopping on a loop when she's home quarantined. You see the Instant Pot. The Instant Pot. They push a button, and then all of a sudden, voila! It's like I don't know. It's like a 4-course like craft meal or something like that. It doesn't work like that. It takes stuff to do it. It takes steps. You have to saute it. Then you have to take it out. And then you have to put other stuff in it. And then you have to put that stuff in it. You don't just do baby pet goat yoga and then, the stuff comes out. I don't like it. And I'm railing against it. I'm about to throw my Instant Pot out in the street and run out.
Finally, someone with the courage to talk about this.
How do you feel about air fryers?
I love the idea about air fryers. I've never tried one myself.
They're all the rage.
Yeah, and I think it's fine. Like if you put a chicken in there or something like that, I think it's healthier, and I think it cooks faster and stuff like that. but I've never tried one.
Mhm.
I like regular cooking. I like putting something in the oven, even if it takes 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to braise or to cook or whatever. That's how you're supposed to do things. Like I've got the time. I've got the time. I sit here, 16 feet away from my kitchen. I realize that's not the case for everybody, but I can take care of that. If I want to smoke something, it's right outside. I can go check on it every hour or something like that.
What if you want your dick sucked for you?
Oh.
I didn't even hear what he said.
I said, what if you want your dick sucked for you?
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's no way to answer that question that won't get me in trouble.
No,
it's not. I cooked some pork chops on this cast iron skillet. I seared them, and then I put that bitch in the oven. Then I took it out, and I made a pan sauce with the
Yeah, you did.
And
you did.
like 9 different things in there, man. There's some Worcestershire and some salt and pepper and some minced garlic and some really minced onion.
I'm almost there.
Little mustard. That was the shit, man. That is not. Yeah, I don't think this Instapot is for me. I don't care if it's controversial. I'm with you. Fuck that thing.
Yeah.
There's a certain satisfaction in doing what you just did, without me making it gross. To make something, to let it go the correct amount of time. Now, there's other things like sous vide and stuff like that actually is kind of cool and keeps it at a nice temperature and everything. But there's a certain thing about cooking things right and in the right order and in the right timing where you're like, I get a satisfaction from that. And again, I realize I'm in a different situation than somebody who has to work a 16-hour shift at a hospital or something like that and has to have dinner on for their kids at the end of the day. But again, Instapot ain't going to make them like Burger King or anything like that. Like it's gonna make a stew of some kind. It's going to make a rice biryani. It's not going to make a fucking like burger and fries. It's not going to make a pizza or a calzone. So, yeah, that's my right.
Does it suggest that you can cook a pizza in that thing?
No. I mean, it might as well.
Okay.
It doesn't say you can't.
Can't hydrate a pizza.
Dude, it would be awesome if you just tried to cook a pizza in that thing. You just get the dough and throw the thing up in the air and all that, and then put it on the Instapot. Throw all the mozzarella down and the sauce,
and then
it comes out perfectly.
Yeah,
and then suddenly tacos.
Yeah, then tacos. So we're gonna get on to a topic that we've done before. We have done the heart of the movie.
We've got heart.
You got heart, kid.
That thing in my chest.
What scene do we think encapsulates that movie? And I guess there's some interpretation still to be had with this thing. I think sometimes the heart of the movie is that's definitely that movie's heart, or this is this movie's best scene. I think sometimes people will think that's what heart of the movie is. But I think where we've gone with it mostly is this scene. If you took it out, the movie's not the same anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we've done a few of these. How many? Is this the fourth time we've had this as the main
enough
topic?
That I'm pretty sure I'm going to repeat myself at some point soon.
Yeah, I was worried about that myself. Who wants to start us off?
I'll go, just because I only have one good one, and I need some time to think while you guys are going. Parasite, the little 8 seed that could from our recent bracket,
Mm-hmm.
a movie that I have now seen almost as many times as I have made Ramdan from the movie. 7, I think.
Damn.
There's a lot of scenes in that movie that I think if you took them out might slightly alter the movie. But it's that final scene where the kid has what I am convinced is a vision of earning enough money to buy the house and letting his dad out. And then explicitly cutting back to show, in my opinion, that it was just a vision. It's never going to happen. That's the heart of the movie, not because of the kid, but because of the movie's themes of how society dictates who can and can't change economic status. And they're of such low economic status, he's never going to earn it. Society has no ladder for him other than what they just went through of deception. There's no ladder for him to climb out of his societal place. And that's the theme of the movie, is that some people are just fucking stuck there, and it's not their fault. It has nothing to do with who they are, what they're capable of, what they try. They're just put in a position that society will never let them out of. And I think if you take away the last 5 minutes of that movie, if you just end it with, oh, he's in the basement, some kind of monologue, credits, it's not the same at all, even though the themes run all the way through the movie.
Yeah.
That's my submission.
If the former housekeeper didn't show up, they would have been good to go, right? That is you mentioned, besides the thing that they just went through, they're making enough money collectively at this point where they could crawl out of that situation, correct? Unless they got derailed like they do.
Yeah, maybe.
It crawled out of their current situation, not all the way up to the social status that.
But I think the movie is even saying, even if they have the money, pardon me if I've just used too frank of language, they still have the smell of poverty that society will never let them do anything but pretend to be of an upper echelon. You know, they might have the money, but they're never going to be rich.
That's a good point.
I will say that not that the movie in it says one way or the other, but I think even if the housekeeper doesn't show up, they're going to make some sort of mistake that ends up being their undoing. Either they're going to do like what they were doing and get caught, where they are all the family leaves the house and they decide to have a party there. Or, there's a chance that the father was on his way out anyway because of that smell factor that was brought up. Because even though the head of that household, he seems to think it's not completely over the line, it's gonna get to him at some point. And I think that he's probably going to go, and then if he continues to smell it, then he's going to smell it on all of them. So I believe there is something to be said that they will not be able to make this last.
It's a good point.
Hey, how does the son know that the dad goes into the basement?
Because of the Morse code.
But when does he figure that out, though? Because nobody knows that until, is he just like hanging out and looking at the house and then he starts noticing the light flickering on and off? And that's how he knows.
I think that's how the movie implies it. Although with the idea that he's got that house to himself for a while, he could have easily sent a note or something.
I guess he didn't know when, because there's one scene where they're actually showing it to another couple, right?
Well, the other couple buys it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things to unearth on that movie still. So yeah, we just can't quit our bracket movies, can we? I picked Ex Machina on this one.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I was thinking about this when I watched it just before. Was it? I guess it was in the Elite Eight or whatever at the time that I watched it recently. And the heart of the movie, in my opinion, is when Oscar Isaac takes Domhnall Gleeson into the lab and shows him how Ava works. He goes in and here's like this, gelatinous like brain thing or whatever. And he says, basically, his technology has been tapping into all of the like phone and email and visual facial expressions of everybody in the world. And it's basically just been going into this one thing, to make his creation come to life. It's a complete and total, violation of just human privacy. And they talk about it very matter of factly in this. He's like, yeah, of course the communications companies knew I was doing it, but they were doing it too, so they couldn't say anything. The whole reason why Ava works is because of regular human beings interacting and thinking that they're doing things for in private or for other people that they want to see these type of things. And that's what's created Ava. And I think what happens by the end of this is the creation that is made from all of us, the human race eventually gets some sort of revenge, right? And again, unknowingly they get revenge because Ava and the other robot kill the creator of that technology, the technology that required all of us to make. So by the end of it, when they're stabbing him and everything, it's really kind of like we are stabbing that guy at the end of it. And again, we don't know that. None of this is anything we know. All this is happening completely out of our awareness. But at the same time, somehow we were violated and got revenge.
Is Kyoko the same model as Ava? Does she have the same circuitry? Because she never talks, right?
No,
she's like a previous version, right?
She's a previous version. From what I could tell, I don't know if the movie says this or if it was the behind the scenes that said this, but the reason he gives for her not being able to talk is not true. Like, I think what they ended up saying was that, what was it that the reason that they gave? It was either...
Doesn't he say, like, she doesn't speak English and I don't... Like, I think he says he basically told her to quit talking is what I thought I remember.
Yeah, it could be. I'm saying the movie itself could say that. I'm saying behind the scenes, their reasoning was that there was something else that they brought up in those behind the scenes, that it wasn't exactly what he was telling him was the reason why she couldn't talk.
I see, but she's not. Ava's the cutting edge. Ava is the top level of, is it Blue Book or whatever the company is right now?
Yeah, whatever that was called. Yeah.
Like the Google technology.
Right. I think that all of those versions still require all that human data though. So yes, while Kyoko is not the top of the line, he keeps improving it with, I am assuming, more data, not anything that he's dreaming up. There's no better circuitry or anything. It's just he's getting his AI or his data is getting better,
and it's assimilating better, right? She's putting the connections together better. Now, he also made Ava as a specific target for Donald Gleason's character, right?
Yes.
She's not for everybody, right? He searched his pornography habits and all that stuff. He figured out how this particular person could fall in love with this particular AI.
Yes.
But she is also the top of the line newest thing.
But that's cosmetic. He can make the robot look like anything he wants to. Right. So it's not that this robot looks like Alicia Vikander that makes her special. It's what's behind all of that. And he could have easily put, Cameron Diaz or somebody like that, on there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But that's what I can. Now there may be other scenes in that movie that you might want to point to as the heart of it, but I was struck by that symbolism by the end of the movie, that the fact that these creations that required the human race ended up killing him at the end. And the fact that he just very nonchalantly says it without any remorse in that scene makes me believe that scene, if that's not in there, it's not the same movie.
Isn't it also the scene where he says this is the work of gods? Isn't that the?
I think that's after maybe because that happens in another room when he says that. But yeah, in fact, it might even be before. Because he's saying that, and then later he shows him how it all happens and everything.
Nice. I got an old one because I just caught this on the CBS Sunday Night Movie of the Week, which was very vintage. They had vintage graphics and everything because they can't show sports. Everybody's fucked right now. So I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time, start to finish, in a long time.
It's such a good movie.
Seen it a million times, obviously, growing up. But it has been a long time since I've just watched it. Mm-hmm. And we had a question, actually, about Raiders last week, I think, where somebody was showing their appreciation for Marion Ravenwood, Karen Allen's character. And I agree with that totally. But there's a few. I found such a deep appreciation for this movie and for Spielberg. This is right in his meaty part. 1981, late 70s, early to mid 80s, is just such perfect Spielberg, such perfect movie making. This is a pulp hero, Indiana Jones, and it's not a perfect movie.
You take that back.
I really don't think so. But it goes back and forth between Last Crusade and this is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. Just because Harrison Ford is so vibrant in this iteration. It's before he becomes kind of old and grumpy, even before he becomes officially old and grumpy. Mm-hmm. But there's one scene in here. I thought a lot about what defines this movie, what actually gives it its heart, because otherwise it's a pulp comic. It's a hero being taking on the Nazis, like Captain America punching Nazis and stuff like that, which is satisfying as hell. He's going after the Ark and everything. But there is some heart to this. And I think it's about halfway through the movie, he's got a rival archaeologist called Balak, a Frenchman who even his buddy Salah has said is the best in the business. He has different methods as Indiana Jones, but he's just as good.
I think, by the way, it's Belloc because John Rhys Davies says Beloche at one point, and you said Belloc.
Okay, Belloc. Yeah,
just for the people out there who are nitpicky about that shit, like me.
Okay, so yeah, he midway through, he thinks after this chase that he blows up a truck that Marion is dead. And so Indiana decides he goes to an outpost, a military outpost or something like that, and gets hammered. He grabs a bottle of mezcal or whatever it is and gets really, really drunk. And Belloc's people grab him and take him down. And this is the first time that they meet face to face. And Belloc calls him out. Calls Indiana out of saying, you know what? I mean, yeah, it's the classic villain. We're not so different, you and me, right? Mm-hmm. But in this case, he's right. They're after the same thing. They're obsessed with the same things. They have different outcomes. Now, eventually, Belloc is going to sell the Ark to Adolf Hitler at this point, or he thinks he does. He may devise some sort of plan to keep it. Indiana, I don't even know what he wants to do with it. He wants to rescue it is the main thing.
He wants basically the glory of bringing it back and putting it in a museum and everything.
But how are you going to put the Ark of the Covenant in a museum is to the side point. But what he's doing, Belloc is calling him out for what he actually is. He actually says archaeology is our religion. We go about it different ways. I blow shit up. You dig carefully, that kind of thing. I have a bunch of people. You have a few people. But we're after the same thing. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. This is an interesting villain in this movie because he's villainous, but he doesn't necessarily want to kill anybody. He's in it for the profit. He's in it for the glory, just like Indiana Jones is. By the end of the movie, Indiana loses track of the Ark. It's not like it ends up in a museum and he saves the day. He saves it from going to the Fuhrer, which is a good thing, and that's fantastic. But the government takes it over, and he's just like, what men? Top men. Okay. And then it's the end of the movie, and it goes into that warehouse.
Well, and that you've tapped into the other part of this movie, as far as what his motivations are, is the government comes to him about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some school sanctioned, Indiana Jones trip like we believe that Golden Idol thing is at the beginning of it and everything. The government guys are saying, we need to get this because, we don't need Hitler having this kind of power and everything. And so he is interested as a man of archaeology and everything to see what it does and all of that. He's certainly that. But he's never that's one thing that, we say he wants it in the museum, but there's no way it's going to be in a museum by the end of it.
Yeah, there's no real outcome. Nobody knows what it's capable of. Even Salah is saying, this is dangerous. We know that, but we don't know what's in there. They're so careful when they do find it, with all the snake pit and everything like that. When they do find it, they're very careful to kind of extract it and not open it or anything like that. And then that's when, the shenanigans ensue. But I thought that was a cool scene because Indiana, there's one coda to this, by the way. So Belloc calls him out, and he gets a little too close to the truth, I think. I think he hits a nerve. And at this point now, of course, Indiana's drunk. But at this point, he's like, you know what? If I'm going to die, I'm going to take you down with me. And he takes out his gun, and he's going to fucking shoot Belloc. And, of course, everybody pulls out their guns at the same time. He's ready to die at this point, not only because Marion is, quote, dead, but also because I think he realized there's some sort of nugget of truth there. And, there's some conflicting emotions. And I thought it really did add a lot more character development, not only for this movie, but for the rest of the series going on, of how committed this motherfucker is to this cause and exactly what his motivations are.
Yeah, I was wondering if this is the scene that you were getting at, because I thought that probably was the heart of the movie. Was, it's easy to think that Marion is expendable or something in his quest, that he doesn't really care for her that much, that all he wanted was that medallion that she had and everything. But when he thinks that she's dead, then he really goes down in the tank there for a little bit. And
it's funny because Salah comes up and he's like, or I think Indiana says Marion's dead, and he's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's the only one that really feels, and it's not like she has family. She's been out there, in where does he find her?
Oh,
he goes to Eastern Europe or something like that. Maybe like Western Russia is where he finds her initially.
I can't remember.
She's like out in the middle of nowhere. It's not like she has friends, family, and everything that's going to mourn for her. Indiana may be the only person that's mourning for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
That's my heart.
I like it.
Good heart.
You got another one?
I can do another one if we want to do another round. I'm not.
Do we want to do another one?
I'd love to do another one.
Okay.
All right. Well, then I'm going to go with the Muppets Take Manhattan.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now, my decision here on the heart of the movie, I'm going to admit, may be biased. I don't know how familiar you are with this movie, but it basically starts with the Muppets graduating college and putting on this show, Manhattan Melodies. And of course, all the college students who look 45 years old love this show. And somebody says, you should take it to Broadway. And then the Muppets delusionally decide to go to Manhattan and sell this show to Broadway. And they fail horribly. They live in, 25-cent lockers at the bus station. They just nobody will take meetings with them. Animal keeps biting people on the leg. And they've actually run out of money, and they have to give up. And there's this scene where Kermit is walking, and all the rest of the Muppets' floating heads are spinning around his head, and they do this song called Saying Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's basically saying goodbye. Why is it sad? Makes us remember the good times we had. You're in my heart, so until then, it's time for saying goodbye. And I moved so often as a kid that I actually had to say goodbye to my best friends And we never got back together like they do at the end of this movie. So this part of the movie always crushed me. But I think it's the heart of the movie because this movie is really about friendship. There's the angle about, it's always the angle that Piggy loves Kermit and they get married in the very end, but they make friends with this waitress at the diner and she keeps talking about Kermit and all his friends. Of course, Kermit sells the show miraculously, sends a letter to have everyone come back, and then gets hit by a car and loses his memory and goes to work at an advertising agency.
He's Philip Phil.
But it's really, they're all really concerned. They want to know where their friend is. They're dejected. They're about to put this show on, and no one thinks they can do it without Kermit. No one wants to do it without Kermit. And that song sums up what the Muppets are all about. A bunch of weird freaks that love each other and are friends. And yeah, that's the heart of the movie to me. I defy you to pick another scene. I don't defy you. You probably can find one. But that, I think, sums up what that movie is all about perfectly.
It's been forever since I've seen that movie, but I believe you.
Well, it's been forever since I've seen that movie, but I saw it 300 times, but before I was 15.
Yeah.
The melody is running through my head right now, actually, and I love that song.
It gets me weepy, man.
It really does. And it's funny because everybody... Gonzo goes back to wherever Gonzo goes to, and Animal goes back to his home. Everybody goes back, and then they come back because they heard that he sold the show, right?
Yeah.
And then they come back. Oh, that's right. He sends the letter, and then they come back and they see him in the fucking restaurant with his ad executives. And does he have the mustache, or the other ones have the mustache?
No, I think the other ones do.
The other ones do. And Piggy just chokes the living shit out of him to get him out of his phone.
Yeah, she gets his memory back. Yeah, she gets his memory back by beating the shit out of him, basically.
It's awesome. I love it. That's up there in the top Muppet movies for you, right?
Oh, yeah. I think, because the first one is so classic, if I were to say The Muppets Take Manhattan is the best Muppet movie, I'd have some people with pickaxes coming at me. But it's my favorite, for sure.
I'm looking at it on my shelf right now, actually.
Oh, I wonder if it's on any streaming services. I need to give that fucker a watch.
You should have it.
Oh, you gave me all the Muppets, didn't you?
I did.
So yeah, and it's not. It's only on Sling, which I don't have. So yeah, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that fucker out and watch it.
Yeah.
I'm getting that for show.
For show. I was trying to figure out what the heart of The Informant was, and considering that really the entire movie is him just lying to people the entire time, and of course it's just hilarious, the lies he builds and what he thinks he's going to be getting out of these lies and everything. He really thinks that he can whistleblow on his company and then take over the company.
Yeah,
that's the funniest thing about this movie. But I mean, the funniest part of the plot of this movie, but like a lot of his narration things are some of the most hilarious things that you've ever heard. I decided that the heart of that movie though is when he's finally hit a dead end, and Scott Bakula comes to him after he's gotten this letter from a psychologist saying that the FBI screwed over Mark Whitaker and that that he's entitled to all sorts of damages because of it and everything. Scott Bakula goes to his home one more time to talk to him, and Whitaker is like, this is what happened. This is the psychologist. This is his own words. He says, right there. And Bakula goes on to say, don't think this psychologist said this. It came on. And then he's like, but no, it's right here. And he's like, yeah, we looked into it. The address on the paper is not right. And because the zip code is wrong. And he's like, well, they changed that. I remember that they changed that and blah, blah, blah. He's like, we looked into that too. The zip code couldn't change 6 months after this letter was written, so it couldn't have been this. And he goes, well, yeah, but sometimes when the new zip code is changing, they give you new stationery so that, that you can use that. And he's like, we looked into that. They didn't make the announcement until a week and a half before they actually did it. So no, it couldn't have been before. It couldn't have been 6 months before. And then you start seeing Whitaker himself, and there's all these, you can hear the inner thoughts where he's like, but what about if this, but what about this? And what about this? And he keeps trying to come up with that lie. And he just realizes he can't come up with anything now. Like nothing he says now everything he says now is running into a dead end. And finally, Melanie Linsky, his wife, is like, Mark, just quit.
Stop.
Just stop.
Watching her through that scene is fascinating because for the most part, up until now, even if she's had creeping doubt, she has openly behaved as though she's on his side. He's done nothing wrong. And it's in this scene where she realizes, everything he says is a lie.
Yeah.
And that's why I think she says, Mark, stop, to save their marriage so he doesn't keep lying and make it even worse. But man, she wilts. She goes from, regular to like wilted and dried up. Well, no, dried up.
Yeah,
she wilts.
There's a there's a good lead up to that too, because Mark is getting on TV and with his wife telling all these like outrageous lies, and then there's that moment where he pretends like he was kidnapped. And he runs into the house saying all this stuff happened to him and getting her sympathy. And we find out a lot of other things, like he's been telling people he's been adopted this whole time. And because he's like, he found out that people get better treatment when people find out that they're adopted. So like he's been telling people that even though his parents are totally alive somewhere.
They confirmed that there's a bipolar diagnosis for this guy, right?
I don't know if in the movie they do.
Oh, yeah, I thought there was a part of that movie where he either claimed to be bipolar, or I guess it wasn't in that psychologist letter, but there was some sort of indication that he had bipolar. This is classic. Everything that you're saying and all those behaviors that Whitaker exhibits is classic bipolar disorder too. Mm-hmm. So it's not only the delusional characteristics of him characterologically, but the pathology maps on perfully too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing too. Like every time he thinks he's told a lie that has no loose threads, they keep finding either he says something that totally screws that up. Like at first I think he says he only took some couple $100,000, and then that figure gets all the way to like 7 million at some point or something. Like he keeps trying to downplay how much money he stole, and whatever the downplay is bad enough. But then he'll say, then you'll hear a lawyer in the next thing go, well, seems like it's so Mark Whitaker took $700,000 or whatever, and it's like the previous amount you heard in the previous scene was 400,000 or something like that. But yeah, not only does Linsky say stop, Bakula also says, Mark, you need to stop lying. And just hearing him trying to go through the lies in his head is another thing that just I love part of that scene.
He says like the name, I can't remember, but he says the name of the reporter and the paper in his head.
That's right.
And then he's like, why would Mark Johnson of New York Times write this article then? And then he says it out loud. After
That's exactly what he says. He brings up that reporter, and it's like he is convincing himself of it. Yeah. Before he says it, and then finally he just gets to the point of I gotta stop. It is funny too, as an aside, that when he finally goes to court, Soderbergh told Matt Damon in his speech at the end to act like he had won an Academy Award. So he's sitting there admitting all the things that he did, but he's saying it in the way that you would accept an Academy Award and everything. So I thought that was funny.
I just looked it up, and then the actual real Mark Whitaker does have confirmed bipolar disorder. So I think that's why you got awesome. Reality mixed with fiction.
Yeah.
Reality.
I know that it was awesome. You predicted it. Not awesome that he has.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm going to go to 2016, so a little bit more recent, and talk about Edge of 17. We've all seen Edge of 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the R-rated, female-directed version of Easy A, basically, without the porny stuff. You could really map those two movies on each other very, very easily. There's the kind of autobiographical narration type of thing. There's the trying to integrate themselves. There's the weird sexual encounter that they initially wanted but didn't want. There's finding love with the best friend eventually.
The former sitcom actor who plays a wise teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a fantastic movie. This movie, it does map onto Easy A. Easy A is an easier watch, I think, because it's so funny and because Emma Stone is just so lovable and everything. But Hailee Steinfeld in this movie is devastatingly fantastic. I mean, she's such a good actress that I don't think she gets her due as much as she should. I mean, obviously in True Grit, she maybe got nominated for that.
I think she did get nominated for True Grit.
That was early in her career. And now that she had gotten to the point where she was in her late teens, early 20s, playing a 17-year-old, she plays it so awkwardly. She's got one friend, Haley Lou Richardson, who eventually falls in love with her brother, and she hates her brother. Her father died. Hailee Steinfeld's character's father died when she was in her teens, like 13 or so. And she's been raised by her arguably bipolar mother, who is narcissistic, all about herself. Kira Sedgwick plays her beautifully. Anytime Nadine, Hailee Steinfeld's character, is talking, Kira Sedgwick will interrupt her and say, well, it's not anything compared to my problems. And she'll defer to her and that kind of thing. So she's essentially raising herself, considering that her mom is more into herself, and considering her brother, who actually means well, but he's good at everything. She resents the hell out of him because he's good at everything. He's attractive. Everybody loves him. She's the nerd. She's the outcast, that kind of thing. And it sets up beautifully. Her only friend outside of Haley Lou Richardson's character is this teacher, Woody Harrelson's teacher, who openly antagonizes her every chance he gets. And it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But you can tell it comes from a place of genuine affection. So there's a scene about halfway through. And again, she's pissed off at her brother, not only because she doesn't like him in general, but now he's dating her best friend. So she feels betrayed by not only her brother, but also because of her friend. Her only friend is dating her mortal enemy, right? And so there's a scene right in the middle where they're both in the kitchen, Nadine and her brother, and he's making this juice out of all these fruits and vegetables and stuff like that because he plays soccer and rugby and all that shit. And he's built like a brick shit house. And she's making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And you can tell at that point, there's no parents around whatsoever. Her beloved father is dead. Her mom couldn't give less of a shit. And it's just her and her brother. And she is all the way up her own ass, man. She is indignant because her best friend is abandoning her, and she calls off the friendship, and she's indignant about her brother, and she thinks nobody likes her and everything. And so she, a typical 17-year-old, right? We're all up our own ass when we're 17. Mm-hmm. And she tells this story. Do what?
I said me with the finger.
Yes, exactly, right. She tells this story about the night that the night Nadine's dad had died. What a night it really was. What a night it really was. Angina's tough.
Oh my God.
But the night that her father died, she says, she talks to her brother and she says, there was a time, he keeps it together pretty well. And she said, there was a moment where I caught you in your bedroom just crying your eyes out to where your pillow was soaking wet and you fell asleep. And at that point, I took your pillow and replaced it with mine, a dry pillow, and I slept in your wet pillow. And at the end of it, she says, I wish you loved me as much as I loved you at that moment. And so at that point, it shows you that not only is there hope for salvaging this relationship, but also how narcissistic and up her own ass she is. That even relating this story to where you can have a productive conversation. This is a great way to connect with somebody that you haven't connected with for a while. And she uses that as a platform to essentially shame him, right? By not loving her enough and making it all about her. And that's what most of the movie is up until the very, very end, until she sees the environment that her teacher is in, that she hits rock bottom, that she gets, into that weird non-sexual encounter with the bad boy that only wants her for sex that she sent the accidental text message to. And then she reconciles with her brother. But that, if you take that out, you don't get that context of how in her own thoughts she is. And it's not necessarily her fault, by the way. She's not only 17, hormones are raging. We're all like that at that point. But she had this trauma when she was 13 that exacerbated it. She's got this family crisis. She's always been socially awkward. You can understand it, but it's still almost infuriating how this thing works.
That's why
it's the heart.
That's why I like that movie so much, is that it goes on that that phrase of everybody is the hero of their own movie.
Yeah.
Only in this movie they actually acknowledge it. And you realize that she is being selfish. In most movies, I think in most movies they're afraid to point out the foibles of a character like this, and you say, that brother is selfish for fucking his her best friend and everything. What's up with that, and blah blah blah. And this one, it really takes it really does a good job of doing that. Like, hey, wait a minute, you're on your own bullshit here. And
right.
I'm going to call you out for it.
Yeah, and if you watch it the first time, you kind of, just because of how movies work, you're set, you're programmed to root for her, right? And to think that Darian is an asshole, her brother is an asshole, and that her friend is being selfish. When in actuality, you watch it again, they're both saints. And in fact, at the end of the movie, her brother says, I've been taking over the dad role for everybody this entire time. You don't understand. Like, he's also 18. It's not like he's an old man or anything like that. He's like, for the last 4 years, I've had to fill this role and also take care of you, take care of mom and all this stuff. And it's not like Hailee Louise Richardson's character did anything wrong either. She just, it's not like it was a fling. Like, they just kind of felt affection for each other. And it's seriously her own bullshit that really drives this whole thing.
Yeah. Like a lot of relationships, it starts with an unplanned handy.
She is whacking him off, man. She is whacking the crap out of him.
Mm-hmm. I dare say nothing else.
Them boys were whacking.
Bork, you're an American federal officer. You never end a sentence with a preposition. And then he tries to, that camper off in which they were whacked. All right, everybody, it is time to talk about BetterHelp.
This service is a godsend. If you've been having to deal with remote appointments with your doctor, with your primary care physician, with any specialist or anything like that, you've probably been subjected to Zoom meetings. I don't mean to disparage Zoom. They've been doing a great service, or some other service, Skype or whatever. BetterHelp has already set up this platform for online counseling for a long time and worked out the kinks already. And it's seamless. Their interface is fantastic. What this is online counseling that you can do from home via text, via chat, via video call, via phone call, for counseling for any sort of issue that you're having right now. Right now, a lot of people may be having a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. Matter of fact, I've been talking to a lot of people now that I've managed to get somewhat of a grip on my anxiety. I've been reaching out to a lot of other people, and to a person, every single person has said, I'm going through that too, to various degrees. I went through a fairly severe bout of anxiety. Everybody is going through something. These are very, very difficult times, which makes this a perfect time if you are having feelings of anxiety, of depression. Using alcohol, people are using alcohol and drugs as a treatment. Not to say that you shouldn't be using any of that at all, but self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And people make light of it on Twitter and everything, and it is funny at a certain extent, but it can get dangerous. And they have services for that. They have services for stress, for all kinds of treatment at BetterHelp. I have found it unbelievably helpful. I've gone up to 2 sessions a week. It's covered under my monthly payment, and I can only tell you that it's working for me. I would not have expected it to work as well as it did for me. I have had a wonderful example from Jeremy to show how well counseling therapy can work, whether you need medication as an adjunct therapy or not. I do. Whatever it is definitely working, and I cannot recommend BetterHelp enough.
Yeah, man. I was thinking, just talking with my wife last night about, we're both fortunate to have each other, but also to have what I believe is a really good marriage. And I was saying, imagine what this pandemic is doing to marriages that were really weak and crumbling before it hit. Imagine what it's doing to single people who don't even have a bad marriage to hang out with.
Right.
And there are all sorts of different spikes of anxiety or depression or loneliness, things that BetterHelp can help with. And I just, I think it's a really good sign, I think, for the company and the way they think that they were mobile before everyone needed all their services to be mobile.
Mm-hmm.
So now whether you're just stuck at home because of the pandemic, or whether, you would have to drive 3 hours to find a therapist, this service, is right here ready. And I think there's some measure of discount if they use the right link, right?
Yeah, correct. Go to betterhelp.com/SinCast. That will let them know that you went through us. And also you get 10% off your first month. That month is worth it. I guarantee you. You can get a lot accomplished in that month. So go to betterhelp.com/SinCast. You basically just start with a questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed counselor. Sometimes, most of the time in your area. If you do not vibe with that counselor, if you do not kind of get along, if you got off to the wrong foot or whatever, you can switch them without any judgment, without any problem whatsoever. So don't be scared off by the fact that, I'm going to be locked in with the wrong person. No, you can change if you need to, and it's just a terrific service. If you have a roommate, if you have a spouse that you don't want to, have anybody, if you have a child that you don't want them to hear everything about it, you can do text chats for your sessions. This is a highly versatile, highly efficient method of getting counseling. If you've been waiting this long, go to betterhelp.com/SinCast. This is probably the right time. It was certainly the right time for me. Cannot recommend it enough. betterhelp.com/SinCast. Feel like you need it. Do it now, baby. Do it now, and thank us later.
Baby.
Do we have some recommends and warns?
Totes amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Let's do it,
I
baby.
think so. I think so.
I was on Amazon, which is dangerous in this time.
Yeah, it is.
And I was looking at some Criterion collections, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get this Police Story Criterion collection, Jackie Chan.
Ooh.
And I had never seen it before, and old Jackie Chan, I either, for whatever reason, I've seen Drunken Master, but I hadn't seen a lot of his Hong Kong movies that made him what he was. And Police Story was one that I always heard of. And have any of you seen Police Story?
Yes.
Yeah, but it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He's this cop that is looking for this. It's one of these weird cases where he actually, in the very beginning, catches one of the main bad guys, but they let him go because they don't have enough of a case. Like, they could still probably put that dude in prison for 6 months or something, but like they decide to let the guy go and everything. And it's really like, this movie plays like a comedy for the most part. There are scenes in this movie where he's just, there's like a lot of like farce, Frasier type stuff going on in it and everything. I mean, the main story is him trying to get this, to get this one guy, this one drug dealer guy, this rich dude. And there's like a scene there's a scene where he's by himself at the police call center, and he's like picking up all these different phones that keep ringing, and he keeps having to try, he keeps trying, like, everybody's got something that so somebody calls and says they're getting robbed, and another person calls and says they're getting raped. And then there's all these different things. And then he's like telling the wrong advice to the wrong phone and all that. No. It's like a big, huge, like, like you see Jackie Chan, even in a scene like that, somehow able to do some amazing things with his body and everything, like kick a pen off of a table and it lands right into his hand and stuff like that. And just getting caught up in all the phones. But the major reason why you should see Police Story is the mall scene at the end of this thing. Jackie Chan is doing stunts in that mall scene that you're like, he got hurt. There's no doubt about it. He got hurt doing that. And just like how we were introduced to him with Rumble in the Bronx and everything, where, at the end of them, they always show the times where he would do something, get hurt, and whatever. There's a scene, I was sitting there watching this because Police Story up to this point has a lot of like neat little set pieces. It's not like Jackie Chan, this is amazing or anything. It gets to that mall scene, it completely changes. There's a scene where he's like at the top level of some mall thing, and he gets knocked over the railing and he falls into this like wooden house looking thing. And it's him. It's just him. The camera doesn't cut away. It's him landing into that thing. And in the credits, you see him do that scene, and you see like him on a stretcher and everything. And like after it's done, you see like there's after one scene, you see a whole bunch of people like doing, I don't even know what they're doing. They're all rubbing their hands together and like touching him and everything, like trying to get him. He
always does that. Like, if he hurts his arm or something like that, he's just like, oh,
yeah. But there's a centerpiece part of it where he jumps from some like incredible height and like grabs onto this like a bunch of like lights and stuff, like it's a cascade of lights or whatever, jumps in there and slides down it, and you can see the stuff popping and like electricity's flowing through it and everything. The movie itself is just it's just fun all the way through it. That mall scene is definitely the centerpiece, but he has so many little other things that he does in there that are smaller scenes that are just comedy scenes, essentially, when it comes down to it, that make that movie really well worth watching it. And I watched some of the stuff that's on the disc. There's a whole interview with Edgar Wright on it. He's talking about some of his favorite Jackie Chan movies, but there's also some stuff in there where Jackie Chan's talking about action scenes, and that's the type of the stuff he is saying in there makes me feel completely justified about everything we have ever said about action scenes in our videos. Every single one of them. I don't care what anybody fucking says. When Jackie Chan says, when you look at an American movie and they do this with their cutting and they do this and this with their cutting, and that's not the way you make a good action scene, then I'm completely sold. We're justified for doing what we've done in our video. And he talks about how like the cut is important because you'll see somebody get punched in the shot and then he'll cut. But in American movies, they'll cut before they even connect, and then the next shot will be like the hand will be farther back even a lot of times, and then and it's like the way they cut in those things, it just doesn't look right and everything. So anyway, Police Story is great. I'm going to watch Police Story 2, which came along with it. So I'm hoping that one's just as good.
The one I'm most familiar with is the third one, actually, Super Cop.
Police
Story 3 that came out in 1992 that I watched it just out of my mind. Like I watched it a million times. It's of the old school Jackie Chan. I love Rumble in the Bronx, but the story is just so awful in Rumble in the Bronx. But Super Cop, like you said, has an interesting like police story, but also has the Jackie Chan humor and all the antics and all the fights and all that stuff. And it's a lot more palatable. I don't think I ever saw two. I saw one, and I saw Super Cop that was released in America, I think in the later 90s, or mid 90s or so.
Yeah, it was about mid 90s that the Super Cop came out, and like I remember seeing reviews of it, and they were like, "This is Police Story 3," and I was like, "Oh shit, we're getting the third Police Story." Like that's so I don't even remember Super Cop. I do remember during that time of Jackie Chan movies coming out, I had found something to enjoy about almost all of them, just because of the ballet that guy's doing through the whole thing, and yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Are we doing one round or two? Because I have two options I want to talk about, but one that I like better. Okay, so I have a record warn for a movie that was really engaging all the way through and compelling, and I felt bad about myself after I was done watching it. It's called Them That Follow. This is a movie about Appalachian Pentecostal preacher snake handler and his daughter and their tiny congregation. This has a cast, baby. Walton Goggins plays the Pentecostal snake handling preacher. Caitlin Deaver from Booksmart is the best friend. The daughter is played by Alice Englert, who was in Beautiful Creatures. Olivia Colman is in this. Jim Gaffigan is in this. And the bellhop from Bad Times at the El Royale, Louis is in this. He is basically the preacher's protege, and he is courting the preacher's daughter. The preacher's daughter, unbeknownst to anyone, is pregnant by this other teenager who left the church. And maybe it was the preacher's kid angle that drew me in. Maybe it was the cast. My wife likes reading things about the history of Appalachia because, 2 hours away from here. But I was compelled. It was really engaging. I watched it all the way through. Basically, to test your faith, the preacher will have you handle a snake. And near as I could tell, almost everyone gets bit. And, then it's a test of your faith whether or not you go to the hospital to get treated for the bite or if you let God take care of it. And one character loses his arm because his parents let God take care of it. It's weird. It's freaky. It's unsettling. It's all the things I'm sure it's supposed to be. I can't fully recommend it because I don't think it was good. But good performances, interesting topic. And I I felt bad about it after I watched it.
That's interesting. Goggins playing that preacher. I don't know when this movie came out, but he does that in The Righteous Gemstones.
Plays a great televangelist preacher.
This is 2019. This was last year.
Oh, so he was like right in the middle of all this. I'm wondering if it's just a coincidence, or if one thing informed the other, or what. That's interesting.
Yeah. So there you go.
Why would you warn it? Because the content is a little uncomfortable.
No, I'm warning it because yes, it's a little uncomfortable, but also I don't think it's a good movie.
Okay.
But unlike a lot of bad movies, it has good performances, and it was compelling and new enough territory to explore. I'm a preacher's kid, but I never dealt with snake handling crap, and that was fascinating to me. I don't know. I watched it all the way through. I wasn't disappointed at any point along the way until it was over, and I realized it wasn't. It's got a 5.3 on IMDb. I can't recommend it in good conscience, but I can warn it. Because when I warn, you know what you're getting into. You know, if it's bad, you can't blame me.
I've heard of this movie. I don't know how wide of a release it got. Them That Follow, right?
Them That Follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Don't handle snakes, kid.
Don't do it. Don't do it, folks. I got a movie that I didn't know what to think about that I've been wanting to watch for a year or so, or a couple years, actually, I guess. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is a Yorgos Lanthimos joint between The Lobster and The Favorite. So everything starts with a "the" for Yorgos, Mr. Lanthimos. So if you've seen The Lobster, or if you've seen The Favorite, you realize that he's got idiosyncrasies. He's got directorial flourishes that are unusual, even in almost a straightforward narrative like The Favorite, which it basically is. Now, The Lobster is very much out there. But I didn't know what this was about. I've heard people say that it's terrible. I believe Aaron Dicer is one of those that hated it. I've heard people say that it's very, very good. Had no idea. I knew it had Colin Farrell in it. Knew that it had Nicole Kidman.
And a sacred deer.
And a sacred deer. And then one surprise that I'll tell you about in a second. There's also this kid, Barry Cogan, who plays this kid who has lost his father in a surgical procedure. And Colin Farrell plays the surgeon that had operated on him. And they form some sort of a relationship because the boy, Martin, feels like, maybe I want to go into medicine. I'm going to start hanging around this surgeon and develop some sort of a relationship with him. Colin Farrell plays this cardiac surgeon who's very, very dry, just as dry as his character in The Lobster. I mean, until later on, his affect is just completely flat. So this movie starts off, and you don't know what to think. You know, you don't know if the motivation is that this boy is somehow related to him or something. Colin Farrell has a very stable family, a young son, a teenage daughter, and Nicole Kidman is his wife. You see early on that he has a very unusual sexual proclivity in that Nicole Kidman comes in and she stands by the bed and she says, "General anesthesia?" And he says, "Yes." And she gets undressed and she lays down on the bed like she's out, like she's under anesthesia. And that gets him off. Yeah, exactly. That's how the movie starts. This is a horror movie. It's one of the opening scenes. This is a horror movie. This is, make no bones about it, this is not just kind of a middle of the road kind of mixed genre. This is an absolute horror movie. As much as Hereditary or Midsommar, it's an A24 movie, but it's harrowing. This kid Martin progressively gets more and more involved into their lives to where, Colin Farrell invites him over for dinner. He kind of ingratiates himself to the teenage girl. They start forming a relationship. He reciprocates by bringing him over to his house for his mom's cooking. Mom turns into sudden Alicia Silverstone.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, I mean, she doesn't turn into her. She's played by sudden Alicia Silverstone.
I see. All right.
Who is almost unrecognizable. I didn't even realize it was her until I looked it up later on. But she plays, she's only in one scene, but she plays it fantastic. This kid, Martin, everybody's performance is great. I mentioned in another thing that we did that Nicole Kidman has rarely been this good. Colin Farrell has rarely been this good. But the focal point of this whole thing is this kid, Martin. This kid, Barry Kogan, I guess I'm saying it as well as I can. He's amazing. He's a mix between Ezra Miller and some sort of a mischievous Logan Lerman, which is kind of crazy. It's the perks of being a wallflower. But it's a super compelling movie. It has a very linear narrative, even though it's weird. Here's the problem, and I think this is why people don't like it, like Aaron Dicer. There's a progressive thing that happens to this family, and there is no why. There is no explanation as to why what is happening to this family is happening. And I think that will probably drive a few people crazy. There's no explanation even at the end of why this happened. But there is an outcome that does make sense to me. This is not one of the meandering inherent vice under the Silver Lake craziness that I typically like, that a lot of people don't really dig. This has a very linear narrative, and it is a very much like a horror movie. It's just unexplained, and I dig that, man. I'm all right with that. The score is amazing. The direction is fantastic, very Kubrickian. I found that just like Paul Thomas Anderson, just like Stanley Kubrick, Denis Villeneuve, Alex Garland, Yorgos Lanthimos is my jam. I haven't seen all of his catalog, but the movies that I've seen that he's directed, the unusual ones, the linear ones, even the ones that are just a little bit bent out of shape, are just right up my alley. And I fully recommend this movie. It is not an easy watch, but if you like the A24 particular horror movies, like Hereditary, Midsommar, it's not like those movies, but it has that sort of bent to it, if that makes sense. It's elevated horror. I know horror fans hate hearing that, but it's not your typical slasher flick. It's not your typical, like running away from, a home invader or anything like that. It is just creepy horror. No jump scares, no, coming out of the dark or anything like that. It's just creepy, and it's fucking great. I gotta recommend.
All right. Well, it looks like that Barry Keoghan or Kogan guy was in Dunkirk. He's one.
That's what I saw. Yeah. I don't. But he wasn't the main guy in Dunkirk, I don't think.
No.
He was.
I recognize him. Is all I'm saying. Is that I've seen that guy before. There's a lot of these Ty Sheridan looking guys going around.
Yeah.
And that's what he looks like. He looks a little Ty Sheridan-y. So.
Yeah. But this surprised me with how much I liked it. I actually watched it for Nicole Kidman. We were having a discussion about Nicole Kidman movies, and this is one that I hadn't seen that I really wanted to see. She is spectacular in this movie. Colin Farrell will captivate you. The Martin character will have you thinking, but her progression through this movie is absolutely phenomenal, and the ending is shocking and satisfying. I think it's disturbing, but it's good. I'm going to watch this movie again.
Huh. Well, I will be keeping it on Nashville resident Nicole Kidman, and recommend a movie I've seen a couple of times, but recently saw Dead Calm.
Oh,
and this movie is it's Philip Noyce who. Noyce, who did Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger and a couple other really good ones. I think it was, what was the Quiet American? Have you ever seen that? The Michael Caine,
yeah.
Michael Caine, Brendan Fraser movie. He did that.
Oh, I have seen that.
It's really good. But this stars Nicole Kidman, who's like 22, maybe even 21 in that movie. With Sam Neill and Billy Zane, of all people. Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. It's a walk-off.
Yeah. This movie, I did not remember this. I must have either forgotten or I've picked this movie up somewhere in the just after the beginning a couple of times, but I did not remember that this movie starts with Sam Neill coming home. He was in the Navy. He's a Navy captain, and he is being told that his wife, Nicole Kidman, is in the hospital and his son has died. And we find out that Nicole Kidman was driving their son in the car, and he managed to find a way to unsnap the buckle, the seatbelt. And while she's getting upset about that and doesn't know where she can pull off to help to get him back in, she gets in a wreck, and that kid goes through a windshield. I did not remember that it had started that way at all. I just remembered all the boat stuff. This is the impetus behind them getting on the boat and saying, let's sort of, start over, reboot, all this. So they're out on the water, and 3 weeks into this ocean excursion, they see a boat that they haven't seen anybody for 3 weeks. They see this boat. I think they try to hail it. Nobody's returning anything. But then they see that Billy Zane is on this little, I guess it's a dinghy of some sort, furiously paddling towards them. Sam Neill, the Navy man, is instantly suspicious of him. And the story that he tells about what's happened on his boat, which is that he was with 6 other people and they all died of food poisoning, he doesn't believe that story. Billy Zane goes and tries to sleep off whatever he's trying to sleep off, and they lock him in. And Sam Neill leaves with Nicole Kidman by herself on this boat with the dude locked down in this cabin. Sam Neill goes over to the boat and, of course, finds out that, of course, these people didn't die of food poisoning. And now he needs to get back. The problem is, what happens is he gets back on this boat to try to get back to Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman has at this point figured out that he's not Billy Zane isn't who he says he is, and is trying to go towards Sam Neill. But by this point, before they can even converge, Billy Zane is broken out of his cabin, and they're in a fight. And Sam Neill, when he gets the boat close, jumps but misses the boat, and so sets up this whole thing where Nicole Kidman is with Billy Zane trying to survive there, and Sam Neill has to get back to a boat that Billy Zane was on and finds out that it's sinking, and he is stuck at this point. And it's a back and forth between Sam Neill needs to get back to Nicole Kidman, but Nicole Kidman needs to get back to Sam Neill to help him out. And Nicole Kidman's got a lot of agency in this movie. You could tell that she's going to be a star from this movie. She's not the damsel in distress. She's looking for ways to solve this problem. And Billy Zane is, to his character's credit, is not just a I want to murder everybody type of asshole. So he's not killing. There's no threat of that as long as she doesn't do anything completely out of line. But it's a great thriller. It's a great. It's one of those movies that sort of gets lost in that whole Nicole Kidman filmography a lot of times. And she's got this shock of red hair that we haven't seen since maybe Far and Away. May have been the last time we've seen it. I think that's her natural hair color. And we haven't seen that in forever. So she looks completely different in this movie, and you can see the star that she's about to become, even though it takes a little bit of time to get to that point.
It's crazy. There's only 3 actors in this movie. It's just the 3 of them, right?
Just 3 actors.
It's Australian. Are they using their Australian? Sam Neill is New Zealand, but are they using their Australian accent?
Yeah, Nicole Kidman has her normal accent. Sam Neill always sounds like. I mean, if that's a New Zealand accent, he sounds like that in every movie. I mean, it's Jurassic Park, Sam Neill. I guess Hunt for October, he's affecting a Russian accent in that, but he doesn't sound any. I think he sounds more New Zealandish in The Hunt for the Wilder People. So I don't know if I'm just not detecting it in Dead Calm, or if it's him trying to be American and he just, it could be that. But Dead Calm is just one of those movies. Yeah, it's great. It's a very simple 90 minutes, very brisk. Go watch that shit.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'm going to warn a movie I didn't finish watching. It's not the first time I've done this. I did go 3/4 of the way through. This movie is 2019's The Kitchen.
Oh, shit.
Melissa McCarthy, Tiffany Haddish, and Elizabeth Moss. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. I just remember we had this in one of our fall previews or something like that, The Kitchen, and it didn't have a trailer at the time. I found some other trailer for some other movie called The Kitchen that had Laura Prepon in it. Anyway,
that's right.
Anyway, I'm not going to say. I'll let you say what you're going to say about it. But I remember what this movie's about and everything.
This movie is terrible. And it's not just me. Rotten Tomatoes 24%, IMDb 5.4.
Damn.
It is basically what Widows was. Only this movie can't decide where to land between comedy and drama. At times, it feels like a women's empowerment film, like a Thelma and Louise. At times, it feels like a slapstick comedy. They have cast 2 comedians, Tiffany Haddish and Melissa McCarthy, and put them in the serious roles. They cast Elizabeth Moss and put her in. Her role has plenty of serious stuff, but she is the goofiest one of the whole crew. Basically, the premise is this is, I don't know, the 60s, 70s, some fucking time when Irish businesses in Hell's Kitchen would give money to gangsters for protection. Their husbands are all gangsters. They get pinched, go away to jail. And the head gangster throws one envelope to each of the 3 women, and it's not enough money to cover 1 month's worth of bills. So they decide, as you do, let's go start taking over the payments. Let's go pick up the mob payments from these Italian businesses instead of the mob picking them up. Our husbands used to pick up the money. Let's just go pick up the money. And the way they convince these people to give them money is we're going to actually do something. The mob hasn't done anything for you for years. You got robbed last year. The mob didn't do anything for you. They could break out a broom and start sweeping at one restaurant. They're like, well, my boys will be here tomorrow to help paint the walls and whatnot. And so basically the movie goes, it's very much, you could take Hustlers, Widows, and this movie and put them on a triple bill. This would be the worst of all 3 of them. But it just, they keep getting more and more businesses that give them the money instead of the mob. Then the mob gets mad. Then the mob puts out a hit on them. And it's just hot fucking garbage. Especially when you're me, and these days you look for a little moral redemption in your characters. And you're still shaking down businesses. I don't care that you're empowered women doing what your husbands used to do. You're basically stealing from a business by shaking them down, like the mob. I'm not going to get behind that. I stopped at about, an hour and 20 minutes. I was appalled at the averageness, and I dare you to watch this movie. It's not a warn, it's a dare.
This is one of those movies that comes out, and you swear there is the genesis of one movie being pitched to a studio that they're going to turn down. And then they immediately turn to somebody and say, did you hear that pitch? I need you to get somebody to write that for me, but our way.
Yeah.
and we come out with it. Because this happens too often. There's no way that Widows in the Kitchen got made independently of each other without there being some sort of seed that grew one or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that it was Widows that was first.
Oh, I would too. Yeah.
And not we know that Widows came out first. I'm saying in the pitch process, Widows was the movie that was being pitched. And then that studio was like, oh, we'll make this. We'll call it The Kitchen.
I can even tell you it probably was the fact that McQueen wanted to put a lot of race element and dialogue in Widows.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole one shot with Colin Farrell in the car as they go from, this poor place where he gave his speech in his district, 2 miles later at his mansion. And I bet a studio balked at that. He went on to sell it to somebody else, but that studio said, I want that, but without the racial stuff.
Right.
And let's set it in the 70s.
Who was the third one? It's Elizabeth Moss, Melissa McCarthy, and who?
Tiffany Haddish.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was a weird... I think they're all miscast in this movie.
That's crazy.
Shrug.
Shrug.
Yeah, this was on the other day on HBO, and I was like, hey, it's that movie. I didn't watch it.
It's that movie. I have one quick musical recommendation and one longer one. The quick one is it's on Netflix right now. It's called Miles Davis: The Birth of the Cool. It's a documentary about Miles Davis and told from his perspective, from his autobiography, cut in with his childhood friends, and how he progressed through his career, especially overcoming a heroin addiction, things like that. It's fascinating. It's amazing. Could not recommend it more. But speaking of musical innovators, I did catch the Grammys Prince tribute called Let's Go Crazy that aired last week. It's on CBS Online Plus, whatever the fuck it's called, Peacock, whatever. I have high standards when I come to Prince content, and I figured this was going to be hokey as hell because every Prince tribute up until now, from the Grammys after he died, where Bruno Mars did, I think, Purple Rain and tried to approximate a guitar solo like Prince, to where Usher in this most recent Grammys tried to do When Doves Cry. I say try to do. They successfully did them, but it just didn't work. He did When Doves Cry with FKA Twigs, who was a phenomenal performer, who just danced, basically, and did a pole dance for him. Now, they actually included footage of that in this special, but my expectations were very, very low. It was hosted by Maya Rudolph, of all people, who was, of course, very, very funny. Fred Armisen comes in later on and is very, very funny, too. Interesting thing about this is the musical director was Sheila E., who played percussion with Prince for multiple iterations, from New Power Generation to his other band to all the way up until he had his three-piece female band that was backing him up in the right before he died. And so Sheila E. had her hands on everything, and you could tell this was amazing. This absolutely exceeded my expectations. They came out and did a fascinating opening number of Let's Go Crazy with her. Chris, I think you're a fan of her, H.E.R., and Gary Clark Jr., who's an interesting guitarist, and I'll come back to that in a second. And they went into Miguel. You remember the R&B singer Miguel, who's, I think, way underrated. He is D'Angelo level performer and singer to me. He did I Would Die For You, which was fantastic. And then it went on to a Murderer's Row of St. Vincent doing Controversy, of Foo Fighters coming back and doing Darling Nikki, which they said they hadn't done in 20 years. They said Prince didn't like it. He said, we did this, and we love doing it, but Prince apparently didn't like it, so we stopped doing it. And then he turned back around. He's like, but we're going to do it tonight. And then they started playing, and it was loud, and it was boisterous, and it was fantastic. After that, Her came out again, and I swear to God, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Purple Rain, the album or the movie, but there's a song on there called The Beautiful Ones, which is the piano ballad, the baby, 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 that turns into Prince writhing around on the floor. Do you want him or do you want me? Because I want you. And it's a huge part of the movie, and it's a very affecting piece of music. And her is a tremendous talent. She did this song in a completely different way, but Misty Copeland, the ballerina, came out and did an amazing routine to this song. It was visually arresting. Her could not have killed it more. At this point, I'm floored, right? At this point, I'm like, fuck it. Stop it. Everything's good. Just stop it right there. Everything's fine. Then you had Beck come out and do Raspberry Beret. Then you had Mavis fucking Staples doing Purple Rain. Then you had Sheila E. do a percussive breakdown of her like 3 hits basically. Then you had Morris Day and the motherfucking Time come out and do the Bird and Cool and Jungle Love.
And then Dirk Bentley came out.
I swear to God, Morris Day and Jerome have not aged a day in the last 1984, 36 years. It's amazing. And they're out there doing the dances from 1984. This absolutely hit my heart. The last thing is Chris Martin and Susanna Hoffs. Speaking of somebody who doesn't age, Susanna Hoffs from the Bangles did Manic Monday, which of course Prince wrote and gave to the Bangles. The low point, of course, of the night was was John Legend.
You just wanted to say that, right? They couldn't have been the low point, right?
Come on. No. The low point was that rehash of the Usher doing When Doves Cry. But John Legend did Nothing Compares to You. Now, appreciably, there's nothing wrong with what he did. There's nothing wrong whatsoever. He hit all the notes. He came out with no shirt, but like a blazer and, whatever, man boobs. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. It's like watching Ryan Gosling play those weird little electronic keys. It doesn't work for me. The rest of it was fantastic. Anyway, the last thing I want to say about this is I mentioned Gary Clark Jr., who's commonly regarded with maybe John Mayer, Trey Anastasio, a few other middle-aged guys now as being one of the best guitarists of all time, or not of all time, of this time, right? He is a blues guitarist. He can really get after it. He tried to play a few of the solos that Prince would play during his stuff, especially in the Let's Go Crazy montage in the beginning. It hammered home how there will never, ever, ever be somebody like Prince. I've watched, obviously, a lot of Prince videos over the years. I've never seen anyone as effortless on a guitar as Prince during a guitar solo. He would make the faces and he would be, he'd get into it and all that stuff, but he would play with one hand. He wouldn't even pick. He would just sound it out on the fretboard and it would sound like he's just shredding and he would play atonal notes that shouldn't go together and he would just do it effortlessly. When you see Gary Clark Jr. and even Wendy from The Revolution, who ended up playing later on, and she actually ripped that Purple Rain solo. You could tell them working at it. They're working. You know how Jeremy used to play guitar, where if you're playing a guitar solo, you're really having to pay attention to where your right hand is, where the picking is, and stuff like that. Never saw that with Prince, and I've never seen anybody do that.
They should have got Johnny Lang.
Yeah.
Johnny Lang would have been a good choice. The only other person that I'd say would even come close to Prince would be Stevie Ray Vaughan, strangely enough. But even Stevie Ray Vaughan, who never missed a note, that was what I always appreciated about him. Never missed a note, always looked like he was paying attention, always looked like he was working at it. And I do appreciate that. But there's a certain ease in which Prince, who, by the way, was dancing and doing splits and heels while he's doing this and singing, while he's doing these guitar solos, there was some sort of it was so natural that I don't think we'll ever see it again. And if we do, we should hang on to them and keep the drugs away from them, for God's sakes.
What is it called again?
It's called Let's Go Crazy, the Prince Grammy tribute, and absolutely could not recommend it more. It's just, it blew my mind that they would get these performers that got the essence of it. They weren't trying to do Prince impressions. They got the essence of the music.
Is it a good production? Like the actual visuals of it presented?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, there were a few times, like back when he did Raspberry Beret, they had if you remember that video, it was a lot of like psychedelic, like flowers in the background and like whites and purples and yellows and stuff like that. They had that as a background, but otherwise it was fairly stark, besides the Misty Copeland coming up, to do the ballet routine.
Because there's a couple of things similar. Like, I don't know if I've seen a whole concert and tribute to somebody before, but like 2 different times I've seen people getting honored in a show. John Williams had like a 2-hour thing
I saw
a couple
that,
years ago. And Dave Chappelle has one on Netflix right now where he gets the Mark Twain Award. And those productions are so shoddy, man.
No, this is a completely different animal.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many times where you can tell that 20 minutes of the show that evening got cut out to get to that reaction shot or to get some other other thing. It's just so low rent. I like, they got Jerry, who just learned Adobe Premiere, to cut it or something.
No, you could tell this is obviously before any of the disease hit and the pandemic hit, but you could tell this is Grammy level production value.
That's good to hear. I'll watch this. This sounds really awesome.
It's exactly what I needed. This was a late night thing too. Probably kept my poor family up because I had it jacked up because it was so awesome.
What were you going to say, Jeremy? You going to say something?
Oh, nothing important. No, I was going to make another wise ass joke.
Oh, you're like, well, why didn't they get the Blues Brothers to come on the show?
I was going to say I was going to ask which Prince song did BTS cover, but
that would be interesting, actually. No, all the performances are great.
They should do that. Oh shit, I'm forgetting my Prince songs. Doesn't he have that nasty song about fucking? That's what BTS should do. Doesn't he have like a filthy song about fucking?
He does. He has several.
He's got a million fucking songs about fucking.
Isn't one of them like pretty overt? Like, let's fuck.
There's Pussy Control.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of. But there's another one.
I think you're thinking of Get Off.
Oh, Get Off. Yeah, Get Off.
You got to have a mother for me to move your big ass around this way so I can work on that zipper, baby.
I was thinking of Kiss. BTS needs to do Kiss.
Yeah, they didn't do Kiss. They didn't do... Kiss. But they should do it in Korean.
Yes. They played that song.
A filthy song about fucking.
The other day on Epic Awesome Videos. What's the song that they're currently playing right now? I think you did a Sins video on it.
BTS? Oh, it's called On?
Yeah. They played On, and then it got done, and they played it again right after that.
Were they 2 separate videos, or were they the same video?
They were the same video. In fact, I thought that once the next video started, it was just, oh yeah, there's that part where they have a break and then they get back into the song, and I was like, oh wait a minute, no, this is the beginning of the fucking music video.
Is it the one where they're in the LA River, or is it the one that goes back and forth at locations?
I think so. I think it's the LA River one, yeah.
Because
the one that's like the big epic looking production.
Do you want to do one question?
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth. I am listening.
We can do one question, sure.
Do a quick one. Let's go to a question. Which movies that primarily take place in one location, such as 12 Angry Men, such as 12 Angry Men or The Wall, do you like or dislike?
That does remind me.
By the way, I forgot that The Wall takes place really in one spot in Pink's like apartment, right? Because the rest is in his head.
I think they may be talking about another wall.
Oh, yeah?
It can't be Pink Floyd The Wall. There's a lot of locations in Pink Floyd The Wall. I think they're talking about maybe the Doug Liman The Wall.
2013. Oh, wait, it's a
2017. The Matt Damon one, right?
No, that's the Great Wall. This is just The Wall, Doug Liman, 2017. 2 American soldiers are trapped by a lethal sniper with only an unsteady wall between them.
Interesting. I haven't seen that. Have you?
I have not either. I remember it. I remember we may have previewed it or something. We may have mentioned it or whatever. But I think that's the movie he's talking about. Pink Floyd The Wall has numerous locations in it.
Sure.
Even though it does have it is maybe possibly going on inside his head the entire time. But anyway, a couple that I came up with on this, of course, Buried is completely in a coffin the entire time. And it's a really good one. I think I even recommended it on a previous episode. Jeremy may have even recommended it at one point. I'm not even sure. Glengarry Glen Ross has a couple of locations in it. But it is essentially that Premier Properties place where most of everything happens. They do have a Chinese restaurant that they go to. There's a car scene, and there is a scene where Jack Lemmon is trying to pitch Bruce Altman that land while his wife is gone and everything. There is that one thing there. But for the most part, that movie takes place in the office. Knives Out is pretty much all in that mansion, even though there is an excursion where they go off and drive through the little town and there's a laundromat and everything. I like all of these movies. And then Green Room basically takes place all in this one bar, even though there are a couple of locations in that as well. But for the most part, it's this band who have unwittingly decided to take a gig at a Nazi bar. And they're going to be there for the remainder of the movie.
Hate it when that happens.
I hate it too, man. Every time when I was in a band, it seemed like some asshole would book us for a Nazi bar.
Oh, my God. What do you think?
I wrote down a bunch, but I'm going off script, and I'm going to say Arsenic and Old Lace.
Yeah.
Which is one of my very favorite movies ever. They do have a scene in the beginning at the courthouse getting their marriage license. But basically 99.9% of this movie takes place in this house of these 2 crazy old ladies who are killing people. And it's one of my very favorite movies ever. It's probably one of the movies that young me learned, hey, black and white movies aren't so bad. It's hysterical. I did this play in college as well, so it has a special place in my heart. But yeah, all one location. I also wrote down Lock, which is like Buried, is all in a car. What's the other one I wrote down that I wanted to say? Assault on Precinct 13 is pretty much all in that one police precinct, both versions.
I haven't seen that first version. The second version is Ethan Hawke and who is
Larry Fishburne.
Larry Fishburne. Which I really, really liked. Carpenter did the first one, right?
He did.
Yeah.
You guys have seen that one?
I have, but it's been a while.
Not seen the original. I saw the remake.
Did you like the remake?
I thought it was actually pretty decent.
I thought so too. All right. Gonna have to check that out. Okay, I chose Clerks. And I really like the idea of Clerks because when you think about it, the way that he used Kevin Smith used that space, he made it feel a lot bigger than it is, right? Because he's shooting it at different angles within the quick stop. He's shooting it from counter to back. He's shooting it from directly at the counter. He's shooting it at the door. He's shooting it behind the counter. He's shooting it outside with Jay and Silent Bob and Berserker and all that stuff, making fuck. And occasionally, like he'll go over to the video store, which is attached. So he's got like maybe 1,200 square feet to work with, most of which is filled with like merchandise. So I think he did it. Plus the roof, using the rooftop scene for that hockey sequence. So I think he made an excellent use of space. The only time that they venture out is when they go to the funeral, and even then, it's just them in the back of the car. Who knows? They probably just drove around the block just with Kevin Smith in the back seat going literally back and forth to Dante and Randall. So I really appreciate how much of a use of space they get from such a small area in that little confined space.
That's one of those all-time make a movie stories, that Clerks. To, you know, I mean, I can't remember. It's one of those movies where the budget for it fluctuates every time you hear about it and everything. I think it was $70,000, and he maxed out his credit cards and basically just took that quick stop and like shot late at night, you know, midnight to 7 or something like that, until the store had to open again. And, you know, just,
it really is amazing, the stuff. I mean, and it endures. I mean, I just watched this maybe a year ago or something like that, and it was just as fresh as, you know, when I watched it the first time. You know, lo-fi, low budget. It's not like I go back to something like Pi and watch that over and over again. This is genuinely entertaining, low budget stuff that makes really good use of space. The only other one that I put down is the elevator that they use in the movie Devil, which is claustrophobic, but they shoot it in a way, I guess they've got cameras in all four corners of the top of the elevator car, and then on the door, and then some on the floor itself shooting up, and some shooting straight down when they're trying to get out through the top. That is a really affecting movie, particularly good around Halloween. Good twist, sneaky M. Night Shyamalan script, and it's really, really good. I like it. I like it a lot.
All right. That'll do it for this week. Go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We also have a Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter. We're on SoundCloud. We also have a Discord. If you want to get on Discord, go to our Reddit page and find the link on the right side, or you can go to Facebook and private message me, and I'll give you a link there. But that will do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Endgame is such a weird movie. People just decided, fuck it, I'm not gonna think about this movie at all. I'm not gonna pay attention to anything. I'm just gonna go with it because they're you know, they have all their fan service, and the rest can eat a dick, I guess.
Yeah,
and the rest can eat a dick.
Yeah.
Did you like your moniker, Jeremy?
I did. You must have noticed my shirt. Somebody saw my shirt.
Jeremy,
my wife said, I like that shirt. It reminds me of young Jeremy.
We will be for so much more.
Yeah. Jeremy dares you to move.
Don't mock, or I will come through the screen like that girl in the Ring, and I will.
That would be an amazing horror conceit, to have somebody come through the TV screen like Samara from The Ring because someone doesn't like Switchfoot.
It's a hard movie to explain, but once you see it, you totally get it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, nobody ever made more noise as a three-piece band in all the concerts I've ever seen in my life than Switchfoot. Now, this is early Switchfoot, because by their second tour, they'd added a fourth guy, and now I think they play with 6 or 7 piece band. But when they first started out, it was the two brothers and the friend, just basically electric guitar, bass guitar, and drums, and it sounded like a 5-piece band, man. They fucking rock live.
I'm telling you, man, you can do that. You know, I mean, Black Keys I saw a long time ago, and they're a 2-piece, and they made a ridiculous amount of noise. White Stripes I saw back in Cincinnati in 1999, and they were loud as fuck. Like Nirvana, obviously. So, it's a weird example. Silverchair, you remember those motherfuckers? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were loud as crap.
Yep.
Very hard to drink.
You may think that money isn't everything.
You know what's funny about them? He was like 15, the lead singer was, when that album came out.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that.
it sucked. I thought it sucked. I thought it just lyrically, it's like fingers on chalkboard like 16 Stone was for me. But then their next couple albums are really good. Like, he's a super talented songwriter. I don't know if they're still together. They may still be.
Yeah, they had a song that was on Sirius XM about 10 years ago called Straight Lines. That was really good.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah,
that was good.
Completely different from what was in the 90s. Totally
Yeah, they're
different.
not really that aesthetic anymore, which is funny. You don't find that aesthetic anymore, right? The closest I found,
it's like grunge, right? It's like,
yeah. Chris, did you ever see him? It's a local band I saw in Chicago, actually, called Bully. It's a 3-piece woman-fronted band called Bully.
mm-mm.
I saw them at the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, and they are straight up Nirvana, whole, like, grunge ass, like power pop type of aesthetic, and it was awesome. It was like walking back into, I don't know, a Bikini Kill show or like a whole show,
Yeah.
except without the. Well, actually, she's blonde and foxy, but she didn't have the heroin chic thing.
I was going to say her whole thing was always about being dirty and gross and uglying herself up on purpose. And, I get that from a mental standpoint. My penis doesn't understand it.
Right.
You're like the Seinfeld playing chess with your penis.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never beat me.
It's not even a discussion. My penis is just like, no, dude, no, we're not even going to talk about that.
Oh, dude, it's the best. They're so grateful.
They're like, can I sleep over?
Oh, no.
That is such a crushing part of that movie.
Yeah.
Because he's just broken up with Sandra Oh. He's like, I got my stuff together. It's their last night, and he's going back in.
Yeah.
And then he has to go get the wallet back.
Oh, man.
I can't fuck this nut, Miles.
It's like
Comes in all naked.
Yeah.
What's funny is that the boyfriend is having sex with her, isn't he?
Yeah.
When he goes back,
goes in and sneaks in, and they're fucking when.
And aren't they talking about like
they are
the previous dude? Oh my god,
they are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez, that movie's
and then he runs
up.
out with his dick hanging out, right? Like,
yeah. He goes right up against the. It's like a pop star moment where the dick is right up against the car.
Oh yeah.
I can see your doodle.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed how they laid it out. Have you seen You've seen Bad Education, right, Barrett?
Yeah. Oh,
I have not. I have not yet.
You have not. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's just the way they presented it, because they have Hugh Jackman as this character for a long time, and then you just like it sort of changes in midway through and everything. And I like how they do that. What did you think of it?
It's on my list to discuss as a record warn, I think. Overall, I felt like it should have been a Sharp Objects limited series instead of a movie, because I felt like it was racing once it started going. But I just wanted, before I talked about it on the pod, I wanted to make sure I didn't step on your opinion. If you were like A+, perfect movie, whatever.
I think you had tweeted, in fact, the night before we did that mini pod, and Jonathan brought up your tweets, and I was like, yeah, if they had done 6 episodes on this, they would have been able to explore a lot of things better. And we would have gotten a sort of a hint of the actual criminal. I mean, they just basically come out and tell you they used these companies that were fake companies to get their money and everything. But it would have been nice to see that operation in motion and everything. And like how they decided before all of it started, how they were going to cover it up and all of that. It would have been nice to really get a feel of the thing. So, but yeah, if you're going to use it, you're going to tell that story in an hour and 50 minutes or whatever, then you probably have to do it exactly the way they did it in this. The guy who wrote it was actually a part of that school system. He met that dude before he even wrote that.
That's crazy.
Happened. Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did a bunch of like little side research on that movie while I was watching it.
Side research. All right. I like to do some stuff on the side, but it's not
man,
research.
Totally.
Let's do a question. I'm feeling a little horny after that Prince talk.
That's right.
All that dirty fucking.
All that dirty fucking.
No, get off in erotic city and sexy motherfucker, and that whole phase could have easily described what you were talking about. And I love all those.
Sexy motherfucker.
There's a part in Sexy Motherfucker, which it's a long song, but it's fantastic. He goes through, he's like, "You sexy motherfucker," and then he goes through, all the guitar riffs and everything, and he's like, "Horn stand, please," and then they start playing the horny stuff and all that stuff, and
horny.
Yeah, and then it breaks down into like somebody who sounds like Chuck D, where he's like, "Sexy motherfucker, shaking that ass, shaking that ass, shaking that ass." 3 sessions ago or something like that, when I was in really bad shape, she was like, "Hi Barrett, how are you?" And I went off on like a 5-paragraph, like, "Well, I'm a fucking disaster right now. I feel like shit. I want to bury my head in the sand. Everything sucks." And by the end of it, I was like, "Oh, so how have you been?"